Well, a very good morning to you. Welcome to KTN News Special. I'm Noakip Kimboy, and today we are discussing matters education. Over 1.6 billion students who are affected by COVID-19 in various forms and ways across the world. And the question is, what are the impact on these particular students, and what is being done to mitigate some of these challenges that have risen from the pandemic itself? And to help us put this in perspective, today I'm joined by Prof.Washington Okeyo, who is the CEO and also the Vice Chancellor of Management University of Africa. He will help us understand, being a practitioner in the higher education field and having experience even in the corporate world. He can help us piece the two and two to put, four at the end of the day. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us this morning. We'll start right away. The impact of COVID-19 for you as a learning institution, Management University of Africa. What was your initial reaction and response to the pandemic?
Thank you very much for the question. The COVID-19 struck very suddenly in 2020, March, and it found all universities and learning institutions flat-footed, Management University of Africa included. We, however, responded very, very swiftly to the COVID-19 when it struck. We set up teams which looked at the status of the university immediately. It was closed by the government. So the teams were basically responsible for identifying what the status of all the students and all the learning, all the programs, where they were. And that helped us to sort of have a basis to plan on the actions that we needed to take. And some of the actions that we needed to take was how to settle the students in the new normal as the COVID-19 was ravaging the whole country and prevented students to go through their normal routines of face-to-face learning in the university. So we used a very structured approach. Specifically, the teams came up with what needed to be done. We communicated all these to students, and basically it meant having students be put on virtual learning immediately so that they didn't lose time for their studies. The aspects of learning were done by having various subjects being programmed to be done through virtual means. And it meant basically also training our lecturers, because we had done very little of virtual learning in the past. So everybody was not able to pick it up immediately, but needed some guidance. So we had to do some retraining also. And eventually we managed to move on and had the students settle down through virtual learning.
Okay. So there is this transition from the brick and mortar and face-to-face interaction form of learning, the traditional learning that we know, to virtual learning, and that took a lot of preparation and setting the structures needed. But let's talk about the students themselves. How did this pandemic, from your observation being the leader of MOA, how were the students affected, especially during that period of before enrolling into now the virtual learning space? What are some of the impacts of COVID-19, especially psychological, did you observe?
Yeah, the students were seriously impacted on psychologically. And because students are naturally used to be on campus and learning interactively together with their colleagues. So having them keep away from that physical presence in the universities basically made the students be very, very concerned. And because they had to now start learning in environments which they were not used to, they had to start learning at home. And home environment obviously is not conducive to learning at all. So they had a lot of psychological disadvantages. Among the psychological disadvantages, they started fearing for their lives. They started fearing for the time that their studies would take. And they also started fearing for their own colleagues, wondering, where is my colleague? Where is my fellow student? How are they doing? Are they being affected by the COVID-19? Are they doing well? How are they learning? On the other hand, they also were not very comfortable, because a lot of learning is actually interactive, and that's how effective a student can be when he or she is being taught. So when they are not together with other fellow students, they can be struggling with one issue or with a question or with a particular topic, and yet they are not able to have anybody close by to ask. Students also psychologically were affected by the fact that their parents and their guardians and other people who normally support them were also not able to go to work. So they were fearing that what would happen? My parents are not working, my guardians are not working, are they still going to be able to pay my fees and stuff like that? So there's quite a lot of things that were going through the student's mind, which COVID-19 brought around.
And actually, that kind of pressure is not healthy for students' mind who is supposed to be focused on studying and learning, and all of a sudden we have this global pandemic that just switches things up. You've mentioned, Professor, that home environment is not conducive for learning. And now we are talking about the new normal, which we'll touch more on in details. But how can you make home environment conducive for learning at the end of the day? Because this seems to be a trend that is being picked up quite fast. Maybe I should refresh this particular question. The issue about, you've mentioned home environment is not conducive for learning, but we know that the new norm, actually some people are very comfortable having these online classes from their homes. So is there a particular way that we can make the home environment more conducive for learning?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. I think it is possible. It is possible to make home environment conducive to learning. It will not be exactly the same as what the university environment offers, because homes are not meant as learning institutions or learning environments. However, some of the simple things that can be done in the home environment so that we make them conducive to learning. One, there must be a special room which is equipped with learning desks, learning chairs, equipped with computers, equipped with online learning requirements like internet facilities, but also is completely devoid of interruptions. Interruptions are key factors that deter students from being able to concentrate. And it necessarily needs to be in a place which is not noisy, where there isn't a lot of other activities which are not conducive to learning taking place. So the student, him or herself, also needs to realize that although they are learning at home, they are not at home per se, you know, in the sense that they need to portray a classroom, a lecture room, and learning environment, although they are at home. And this has to be very, very carefully planned and followed. Students need to make sure that they have exactly the same plans, the same timetables that they have when they are in the campus. They plan their work in such a manner that they take breaks as and when they are supposed to take breaks the way they normally do it in the campus. If it is 20 minutes, if it is 30 minutes, and that in between lessons they engage in other activities which are not necessarily learning oriented, so that they can mentally reset their thinking and also their concentration when they go in for the next lesson. Those are some of the things that need to be done. But importantly, the parents, the guardians who are at home need to make sure that they keep the students away from the normal home course and the normal home activities, so that learning is enhanced and is as close as possible to the way it is done when within the university environment.
Indeed, Professor, and you know, from experience going to university or a higher learning institution, you know, it happens in our context. You are grown up now, so even the learning institutions are not in contact with your parents on a first name basis. They just have the students. So for your institution, the things that you have outlined in terms of making, you know, our homes a more, you know, friendly environment for learning. How did you help with this? Did you guide the students? Did you also involve the parents so that your students will have that capability of making sure that they are maximizing and properly utilizing this online platform that you set up?
Thank you very much. The COVID-19 struck very, very abruptly, and there was hardly any preparation that universities could do in advance of moving on from physical learning to virtual learning. But as a university, we did a number of things which we think helped students move, not necessarily smoothly, but move from the previous learning environment which they were used to the new normal, as it is called. One of them was to explain to them through very, very structured communications that this is a situation which is not within our control, not within the control of everybody. So we are trying to make good of a bad situation. And therefore, we will try a number of things which we have already designed, which are meant to ensure that you continue learning, although you're not going to be learning in the usual environment which you are used to. But nevertheless, you have to get used to this. So we advise them to set up suitable learning environments, suitable learning rooms in their own homes, which are capable of offering them learning environment which is conducive to learning itself. And we also gave them a number of references which they use to learn. Fortunately, our university library has got internet connections where, and of course software, where students are able to access the library from wherever they are. So they are able to access the library through what we call the off-campus system. which gives them access to all the volumes and all the online materials that we have in the library. So they are able to make reference, they are able to read without necessarily having to physically visit the libraries, and that really has enhanced their ability to have access to these materials and keep learning and keep getting new knowledge as if they were on campus. Wow. We also have arrangements which we made with the facilitators, that is the lecturers. The lecturers are in constant touch with the students through phones, through emails, and also through online systems, where we have chats, and we engage our students and ask them questions in case they have difficulties in certain aspects of their subject which they're learning. Then the lecturers are able to help them online. Through our Student Affairs Department, we also have the counselor, and the counselors who are the experts in counseling also engage with the students during this time when they're at home. And students are able to talk to the counselors, about their problems and psychological and otherwise. And the counselor is able to guide them, through their life while they're at home, facing the difficulties and trying to resolve to make sure that their life is as comfortable in their homes. Learning environment is as conducive as possible, to the extent possible within the restrictions of the pandemic.
Wow, that's very helpful, having somebody in your contact just to speak to. I think the pandemic really isolated people, individuals, and that loneliness. It saw a rise in numbers of, matters to do with mental health, and also the management of that. There had to be intentionality, and I'm glad that you had, somebody to help on call for the students. But still on the structural issue, Professor, did you encounter any unique case? Because these we saw, especially with public universities, a lot of people are forced to head back to their homes. Rural settings sometimes, internet connectivity is a challenge. Some of these structural challenges, did you experience them, and how did you help the students overcome?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. We experienced structural challenges, especially unavailability of internet in some parts of the country. And we also experienced cases where students did not have the right infrastructure, equipment like laptops or computers and so on. What we have done, though, is to try and make it possible for the students to be able to afford the internet. We made arrangements with the internet suppliers, that is the companies that supply the internet and communications, so that they can supply our students with internet at much cheaper and affordable rates, so that the students are able to access these through, use this in their phones by purchasing education data bundles, and then using them on your phone in cases where they don't have the laptops. Talking about laptops, we have also made arrangements with other organizations, for example, Computer for Schools Kenya, to give our students laptops at way lower than market prices, and with loaning facility, or rather long-term payment facility through the university, students are able to acquire laptops, the ones who need them, so that they are able to keep on learning virtually, but in a much more affordable way compared to if they did not have access to these facilities. So we have made it very, very possible, very, very easy and very affordable for our students to continue learning in the new normal where they have to learn virtually.
That is quite incredible. Facilitating, giving a loan facility for students to be able to acquire some of these gadgets that they do need. Very, very good for the students at the end of the day. And also that deal with mobile service internet providers. Very important, because bundles can be quite expensive. We understand that, especially if you have some of these applications like Instagram. But I don't know, I don't think the university is using Instagram as a tool of educating the students. But Professor, coming into the issue, going back to the issue of, mental health and psychological affairs of the students. You said you had a helpline where a student could reach out for psychologists to help them, address some of the issues that they're facing in their own life. But from the institutional approach, because sometimes what people go through, they might not necessarily want to communicate. So was there any intentional effort from the institution, your learning institution, to reach out to the students and also check on their mental well-being?
Yeah, in terms of mental well-being, we have a lot of plans to try and get the students to suffer less from the mental situations. And our counselors within the university called students, and they discuss with students their situation, their psychological situation, how COVID-19 is affecting them, how they're coping, and so on and so forth. And they do it on case-by-case basis, where a student, really needs, closer contact, like interaction with the counselors, then we make arrangements for the counselors to see the students physically. If it is a situation where they can be helped through the phone, then that also we do. But importantly, as the students are allowed to come back, for physical learning within the campus, we interact with our students. The counselor herself has sessions with the students, and then they will do assessment on the student situation in terms of the way they talk, in terms of the way they feel, in terms of their concerns, and so on and so forth. And based on that assessment, then we take students through counseling and some other assistance that may be necessary, depending on the level to which a particular student is affected. We also maintain very close contact with our students. As I said earlier, our lecturers maintain very close contact with our students. So through that interaction with the students, we are able to tell if a student is in a need of counseling or need of some assistance. A lot of students will be very, very worried about their colleagues, about themselves, how they're going to raise fees, and so on and so forth. So in such situations, we make arrangements for specific students who have specific needs, and we help them go through those problems through official and structured systems within the university.
Quite incredible that the school reaches out to the students on a one-on-one basis. That is what needs to be done. We saw the issue of mental health being addressed even by the Ministry of Health during the COVID-19 briefing, and raising concern that there's been a rise in mental health issues during this COVID-19, and higher learning institutions do have a very critical role to play, especially towards their students. And I'm glad Mo is taking that step. But at this particular moment, KTN News Special, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk matters re-assimilation. Now students are going back to physical learning. What is being done in that regard, and what is the balance between online and this physical learning that we're going? Are we just picking up from where we left, or what exactly is happening? That and many more after the break. Universities. The question is, how are these higher learning institutions prepared to handle the students? And we know our higher learning institutions do have a lot of students. So at this particular moment, we want to take a look at, the sentiments on the ground for students, one from the student and one from staff of Management University of Africa. Let's listen in.
Modera from the Management University of Africa. I'm a student. I'm pursuing Bachelor of Commerce. Right now I'm in the 4th year, and I'm really grateful for the school because I've gained many experience. For example, the school has the flexible mode, that is I can come here face to face or also do the online. The online has its advantages, that is, for example, people who can't come here or reach here, they can access platform that is online very easily. And it's convenient, that is, as compared, for example, for me who undertakes the face-to-face. And also what I can say is that the environment of the school, according to the study, it's very, very convenient for me. It's giving me the more, how may I put it? It's more convenient, like it's not give me the pressure. Then the learning in itself, it's very, very well, and I can't complain about it. And also about the flexibility in terms of education, in terms of payments, in terms of anything that you can find, it's very, very more flexible. And also in terms of curriculums, we have several, but right now we are dealing with that is, we can't go outside because of the situation that we have, but right now we continue with those curriculum internally. And also for our that is our main campus in Kisajo, there's also, I have heard they have started the modeling practices. So those people interested in modeling or doing this and this, they are free to enjoy it. As for me, the Management University of Africa is the best for me. I can't choose any university for it.
I'm Dr. John Chelukit, currently the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Management University of Africa. About our university, the new normal we are looking at the moment is the issues to do with addressing COVID-19 protocols, whereby as a university, we have put in place measures like at the introduction, at the entrance points, we have, of course, the can thermometers, which are used to scan each and every person entering the university, including visitors, students, and everyone else. Also, we have set aside an isolation center whereby any person manifesting abnormal temperatures are just looked at that particular point. Within the university alone, there are various points whereby we have put stickers to do with social distancing, and also having also various water points where people can wash their hands, sanitize. The same are also replicated in our Kisajo campus. When it comes to learning, the new normal now, of course, means we can't take the normal students in the various classrooms. We have had to reduce the number of our classes so that we comply with the COVID-19 regulations. And of course, this means now we have ended up also introducing the online facilitation of those students who are not able to make to the university, and also in a few to ensure that we do not violate any protocols as far as having the right numbers within the university are concerned. The other new normal we are seeing going forward is the issue to do with facilitation of classes online and also examinations being done online. That is another new normal we are looking at. When it comes to student supervision, we have also resorted also to have a blend of face-to-face where it is possible, and where it is not possible, we are going online also to facilitate students in their projects.
Well, that is Dr. Cheluget, who is the DVC, to Professor Okeyo. So, Professor, the way Dr. Cheluget has highlighted this and, clarified that the water points, first of all, the COVID-19 protocols are on point. Water points, temperature, and whatnot. But the balance now between online classes and, face-to-face kind of interaction, what is the balance between these two moving forward?
Yeah, we know that COVID-19 is with us, and it is not predictable when we shall, or whether we shall go back to the old normal. And therefore, we have to face the COVID-19 situation in a very, very tactful and proactive manner. Online learning has been used as an emergency sort of learning process or system. But it is probable that we are going to continue with online learning for a very, very long time. Indeed, as we change from the normal, what we used to call normal classroom face-to-face learning, it was foreseen as a stopgap measure. But now it is looked at as if it is going to be what is going to be used in the future for a very long time. And therefore, the more universities are prepared to provide online facilities, online learning facilities to their students, the better. And this means that they have to have, a reliable internet, which has got enough bandwidth to contain all the learning situations that each university, and each university is unique. The universities that offer more complex subjects, for example, the sciences, the physical sciences, the biological sciences, and other subjects which require more sophisticated sort of processes and systems of learning. So they have to prepare themselves based on their own individual needs as universities. For universities that mainly offer social sciences and humanities, these ones probably are easier because a lot of these subjects under social sciences and humanities can actually be taught through the virtual systems. And our university is a social science and humanities university. So most of our subjects can be taught virtually. But where students prefer, and indeed there are students who prefer to come to the university to learn physically, then we give them that option. So the option is really upon the students. We don't push it down their throats. We don't force them to do what we want. We go by what they want, and we offer both online and virtual and face-to-face physical on-campus learning and options to our students.
Definitely. And Prof, I know you know about Google University. It is one of those universities that support our local and, many other formal learning institutions. For students, they go there to find all sorts of information. In terms of examining and assessing students, rather, whether they have captured what you've taught them or not, especially in the online setting. How do you do that without tarnishing the credibility of the test?
Yeah, that's a very tricky area because examination usually is meant to be as of high integrity as possible. And if the process is not carefully monitored, then the integrity of the exams may be compromised. And what we have done as a university is, and we did this within the first semester, second semester when the COVID-19 struck, we got into partnership with there are organizations that offer exam systems which are online, but are programmed and are designed to be able to offer the invigilation just as if it was the physical examination. So we looked for partnerships to help us offer and administer the online examinations, and we engaged them. Some of the facilities that these online examination systems offer is, for example, proctoring. Proctoring is a way of a system monitoring the environment around which the student is doing the examinations to ensure that the system itself, the camera on the computer, takes photographs of the student as they do the examinations, and they also take photographs of the environment. This will tell and reveal whether the student is being assisted externally, or whether the student, him or herself, could be reading a book or referring to certain prohibited material during the examination process. And these photographs which are being taken are sent to the server, and then the invigilators are able to view live as the examination process is going on, and therefore they are able to tell whether the student is compromising the exams or not. But in addition to that, the systems also have the lock capability, where the system locks the browser to the one which is offering the exam only, so that a student is not able to change the browsers to go and start looking up what is in Google, what is in other browsers, and so on and so forth. They cannot basically move away from the exam mode. But even that, I think one thing which is even equally important is the way the exams themselves are set. Because if the examinations are set in a way that it will be possible for a student to refer to some material and then get the answers directly from there, then that is already a compromise, and that is a bad examination. What we have done is, since COVID-19 struck, and even before our university was actually setting examinations which are application and comprehension oriented, there's what we call Bloom's taxonomy, which guides in the setting of the exams. And Bloom's taxonomy starts with knowledge and recall on the left-hand side, and then ends up with application and comprehension on the right-hand side. What is encouraged is a balance of that. But most of the exams, most of the online exams, or exams meant for doing in the online environment, need necessarily to have more of the right-hand side of the Bloom's taxonomy, so that they are more application-oriented, so that they are more comprehension-oriented, so that even if a student was able to get a book on that particular topic, they cannot get a direct answer from that book. That way, the student is forced to think so that they can provide the answer. And what we did is we trained our lecturers. We trained our staff so that they are able to set these exams in a way that they are not direct question-answer exams. And it has worked very well for us. We caught a few cheats. For example, when the students don't know that the camera is actually monitoring them, and they happen to even bring in somebody and attempt to type for them, but we catch them and then we punish them. But there haven't been too many of those cases. But the good thing is that where it has occurred, we have been able to catch them, and we have dealt with the situation quite. So at the end of the day, the exams and the results that we get from the online exams in the university are of very, very high integrity and just as good, if probably not better, than the previous situation where the students had to do the exams physically on the campus.
Indeed, that is the power of technology. The camera is monitoring whether you're Googling or referring. That is quite powerful, actually. That is quite powerful. Basically, you're having an invigilator in your private space. And as we close up this conversation, Prof, the discussion in Kenya has always been the disconnect between what higher learning institutions are offering and what the industry is requiring. Now, I understand you've worked in the corporate world, and you can piece these two. So briefly, as COVID-19 disruption, especially in the academic sector, help with the resetting of this particular gap between the learning institution and the corporate world?
Thank you very much. Yes, it is indeed true. I had a stint in the corporate world for a while before I moved into the academics. And that is a very good blend of knowledge and a very good blend of experience, which is very useful when handling university and learning and teaching matters in the university. One thing which has been happening, and it should not happen, is that universities have kept their side of the bargain of injecting knowledge into the students without referring or getting to know what the requirements of the industry are. And the industry at the same time have also kept their side and kept apart from the university or from the universities without giving feedback. For example, universities release students into the marketplace, into the industry. Every so often, different universities graduate their students at different times in the year. There isn't much feedback that is coming from the industry back to, in a formal manner. When I talk about feedback, I don't talk about informal feedback which are written in the newspapers and those kind of channels. I'm talking about feedback which maybe an industry has got a system of assessing how their staff who have just been given to them from the universities are performing vis-a-vis their objectives and vis-a-vis their requirements, so that they can use that and feed it back to the respective universities who gave them these students. That way, some corrective measures can be taken. Universities can engage the industry players so that they can talk together on a round table, and the university can be given the requirements of the industry that in this particular area in our industry, this is the kind of information, this is the kind of knowledge that we require. Instead, what you gave us are students who are short in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas. So next time you're reviewing the curriculum, then you can take this into consideration and then review the curriculum so that the next students that you'll be releasing to us would have these skills, additional skills and knowledge that will help us. On the side of the university, we do what we call tracer surveys. Tracer surveys are a way of tracing our students where they have been employed or where they are working, where they have started their own businesses. And we interview them and ask them whether what they learned when they were in the university is helping them, whether it is the knowledge that they're using in their day-to-day work, in their workplaces, or in their businesses. And we get some very interesting results. Mm-hmm. In our university, in fact, just about last week, one of the students came to my office. She had come to the university to clear and pick up some documents after she had graduated. She ended up starting her own business, which is, according to her, starting on very, very well, and is already very, very successful. And she talks about utilizing the knowledge and skills that she learned when she was in this university. So, those are the kind of experiences that we use. But more formally, I would encourage universities to engage in official partnerships with the industry players. Identify organizations, institutions, and which are in the areas where the university offers various programs. That way, they can listen to the requirements of these organizations and then fuse those requirements into their programs as they do develop new programs, as they revise old programs to take care of the contemporary issues that emerge within the marketplace, so that at the end of the day, the programs that are being offered by universities address industries and societal needs. Universities also need to do research in the industry. Research is what brings out what we call new knowledge. Without research, it would be impossible for somebody to know what is likely to happen. But when somebody does research, then it is possible to come up with what is likely to happen based on what has happened. Definitely. So universities need to do active research in the industry, so as to bridge the gap between the industry players and the university.
Definitely, there needs to be that bridging of the gap, more intentional effort from the industry towards the higher learning institutions, and similar effort from the higher learning institutions in forms of research and tracing their students, how exactly they have been managing out there with the knowledge that these institutions imparted in them, and to be able now to gauge where we are heading as a country in the end of the day. Thank you very much, Professor Washington Okeyo, who is the Vice Chancellor of Management University of Africa, for that insightful conversation that you've had right here on KTN News Special. And that's where we put a full stop today. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Noah Kipkimbo. Do have yourself a good day.